Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Age television talk show, Where Truth Matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone as we get to ride home with each other in the afternoon. You can also find us on the radio at 92.9, the big powerhouse station right here in South Carolina. You can also find the on newscasters.com, all the social media sites, but wherever there's a social media, we're on it. I have a very good friend, Don Brown. He's an attorney, an author, and a speaker, and also candidate for U.S. Senate right there in North Carolina. I miss you guys. How are you doing?
Hey, Donna. Well, I'm doing well, and greetings from the campaign trail. I apologize, I'm on the regular studio this morning, but I'm headed up to Cary, North Carolina to speak to a Republican group around the Charlotte area. So good morning from I-485 going around Charlotte. So
there you go. Oh, I love it. I miss 485. Is it even more congested than it used to be?
Hang on just a second. Okay, can you see over there? That's traffic. What you're seeing is inbound traffic now coming into Charlotte, and we're headed out. So it's, can you see that? You see those cars over there?
I see them. That's good old Charlotte. Yep.
Give you a little bit of it's not the most professional camera work, but it kind of gives you an idea of what you're missing here. So there you go.
Well, I'm good to be in the country in my studio. I'm fine with that right now.
I'd rather be in the studio too, to tell you the truth. So there we go.
Well, it's beautiful. How's the weather up in that neck of the woods?
It's actually gorgeous this morning. You know, it's probably we're getting some leaves changing. So, you know, it's kind of hard, really kind of hard to beat the weather at the moment. The question is, how long is it going to last this way?
Yeah. We can change in one day, 4 seasons.
It could. That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay, let's talk about the elections from yesterday. There were some disappointments. I'm mainly discussing the New York situation there. Folks voted for a nut job.
Yeah, you've got a communist Muslim now elected mayor as the largest city in the United States, similar to what we've seen in London and other major capitals, and it's a testament to the failure of our institutions. If you stop and think about it, the shocking thing is not who has been elected, but the millions of stooges that would vote for the guy to begin with. And you know, we've taken that's a testament to the failure of our education system. You take God out of the classroom, you take prayer out of the classroom, you take the Bible out, and you don't teach American exceptionalism. In fact, you teach just the opposite, that America is bad. And over a generation, you're going to have this type of garbage. And the election of this Mondami guy is a testament to the failure of our education system. And when I say a failure of the education system, I'm not bashing our teachers. I love teachers, but it's just that the top-down approach from the federal government has driven us to the point that we have a generation of voters that vote for this fool, not teaching communism is bad in the schools, not teaching the Sharia laws bad in the schools. It's also the failure of our immigration system. And the bigger question is to do to the country to begin with. Why is Mondami in the country? Why is Ilhan Omar in the country? Or Rashida Tlaib? Why are they in the country? You know, they embrace a philosophy, Sharia law, that is at war with the Constitution. Why is our legal immigration system allowing them in the country? It raises some questions that have got to be addressed. And it's a sad state of affairs. Everywhere I've gone in this campaign, I've opened with the argument that that there is a battle coming within the next 6 years for the very survival of this constitutional republic. The election of that fool is exhibit number one. Actually, there are other exhibits as well, but if that's not now in our faces how serious our situation is, unless we really step up and start fighting hard, I don't know what it is.
Let's talk simple economics. Very simple, like debits versus credits. Okay, so what does this mean to the state of New York when you have the socialist-leaning nut job? He's it. So what happens when he wants to impose 50% tax? That's what he said. He's open with it.
Well, if they're able to do that, you get into constitutional questions of whether he can unilaterally do that as the mayor or not. But he's pushing it. You got a radical city council that is behind him and likely to back him up, what he's going to do, he's just going to, you know, I live in the Charlotte area, I've been in the Charlotte area, and when I moved to the Charlotte area, we had a 6-5 majority in Republicans over Democrats, and we have pro-business Republicans who built the city. Since then, it's gone to hell in a handbasket. Like Detroit was once one of the wealthiest cities in the world, wealthiest in the country in the heyday of the motor production from Ford, Chrysler, and GM. And then what happens is these communists and socialists take over, and they kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Mondami will kill the goose that laid the golden egg. He will drive more and more people out of New York. You will see New York, which was once the greatest city in the world, in Detroit. And because socialism doesn't work, has never worked, he won't have a goose to kill. After a while, he'll kill the goose, and there won't be anybody to lay the golden egg. And all the grandiose ideas that he has about, wanting to have socialist grocery stores and it's like Margaret Thatcher famously said, the main problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money to spend. And so he will drive it in the ground. It will become a shell of a city. People will leave. Unfortunately, Democrats will leave, and I hope they don't come here. I hope that Democrats leaving New York will leave and understand they're leaving Democrat policies and need to change their ways. But it will be the end of the death of the city of New York as we once knew it, in my opinion.
Oh, and it's terrible. I was there. It took several business trips in New York, and this is in the 80s and the 90s, and it was much, much better when Giuliani was there and as the mayor. And I actually felt safe walking around at night after our meetings. I mean, I felt safe. Of course, we were with other people, but, it's incredible how filthy it is now.
And the shocking thing wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to destroy it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It wasn't that long ago. Yeah. Giuliani was mayor. And here we go from 9/11 with Islamists destroying the city, destroying those Twin Towers, to putting an Islamist in charge of the city. Talk about a city of fools. New York is a city of fools for letting this fool. But Giuliani was a Republican. Now, he wasn't as conservative as me and you, but he was a Republican. And we go in the 25-year swing from that to this. It's interesting. I was campaigning in Durham, North Carolina, last week, and was hosted by a group there. Durham is the fourth largest county in the state, I believe, still fourth or fifth, and but it's heavily Democrat. There was no Republican running for mayor, so the group that hosted me, Durham Core, they had invited in one of the less radical Democrat candidates to speak to them, and of course she was catching a lot of hard questions, and rightly so. But in Durham, North Carolina, they have this program called the HEART program, HEART. That's where you have a shrink ride in the car with police officers. And she was defending this HEART program where the shrink rides in the car with police officers as being there to counsel. Look, they're paying salaries to these HEART fools. I guess I shouldn't say fool. My grandmama taught me not to say that, so I'll take that back. But they're paying salary to these HEART people. They're psychologists to ride with police officers. Those salaries could go to employ more police officers. But that is typical. That's typical of the liberal, foolish Democrat mentality. You're going to see more and more of that in New York. New York's trajectory is absolutely down at this point, and they've done it to themselves.
Well, something, as a country, we're known for this. We have to go through years of hell in order to be back on top again. And we just discovered that with Biden in for 4 years, and hopefully now things are turning around. So is New York going to have to go through that as necessary means for turning less corrupt?
They're going to go through it. There's no question about it. The question is whether or not anybody with any semblance of common sense would have all left the city, and the takers are still in charge. See, the takers are in charge of New York. Give me this, give me that, give me what you made. They are subject to believe foolish Democrat promises, and as bad as it will get next time there's a mayor's race, the the Democrats will blame it on Trump and Republicans
Of course.
and these fools that are putting, I shouldn't say fool, these idiots, how about that are putting Dami in office will probably fall for the same thing, unless we start a radical change in our approach to education and do it over a period of years. In the school system, we need to teach that socialism is bad, that capitalism is good. We're not teaching that. We're teaching just the opposite. So we're laying the groundwork for this type of radicalism that we're seeing at the ballot box. So I'm not optimistic that the city of New York is going to be doing anything to change in a positive way anytime in the near future.
Well, New York doesn't have to stay at the top, and they're going to decline big time. So what does this do to the rest of the country? Because New York thinks they got it big.
Well, I hope that what it does to the rest of the country is send a massive alarm bell to those who haven't woken up yet, to people that are kind of in the center or aren't paying much of attention. I hope it will send an alarm all across the country that we better get our act together, or it's coming to a neighborhood near you. We have seen these attempts for Islamic infiltration into suburban southern towns and counties and cities all over the place. And that is my hope. New York can fend for itself as far as I'm concerned. I don't have any desire ever to go there. It is disgusting. What they've done is disgusting. It's beyond reprehensible. But yet you have the AOCs and the Bernie Sanders types who are applauding this. That's what's happened to the Democrat Party. They've become a communist party. Somebody said they become socialist. I heard the chairman of the North Carolina GOP said they're officially socialist. Actually, they're communist.
Yeah.
They're beyond socialist. They're dictatorial. And we got to teach that communism is bad. You see, part of the problem is we've not been teaching, Donna, that communism is bad. That's been part of the issue that we've had to deal with. We've had a whole generation of young people that are taught that socialism is cool and really is destructive and leads only to poverty and death. So we got to change the way that we are training and teaching folks to start thinking from a different prism, or we're going to be, my concern is this will spread. We got to contain the cancer in New York City.
Absolutely. Some people would say New York is the Babylon, and Babylon failed big time. It went down to its knees.
Sure. Yeah, history repeats itself. You see this type of foolishness repeating itself through history. If we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. Donna said, and Churchill repeated. So either we're going to wake up and smell the coffee or we're not. All you and I can do is continue sounding the alarm, Donna, and you're doing a great job of it.
Well, something, I'm really disappointed in women. I really am, especially in New York City, some of the bigger cities. First of all, the claim that men can compete in women's sports, and now you vote a mayor in Sharia law. Shouldn't that be enough for you not to vote for the fool?
Of course, well, first of all, you should never have been allowed to immigrate into the United States because of a Sharia background. And, of course, people say, well, Don Brown's an Islamophobe. I don't care what you call me. If you embrace a philosophy that is an anathema to the Constitution, and you're trying to immigrate into the United States, you should not be allowed to do that. And of course, you talk about women supporting this guy. Of course, Sharia law treats women like dogs and animals, and treats kids like dogs and animals. Muhammad himself had a 12-year-old wife named Aisha, a little girl. Grown man having sexual relations with a little girl, they think that sort of thing is okay under Sharia law. But yet, again, the problem isn't just the fool who's been voted in, it's the nation of fools, or in this case, the city of fools that have put him there. And all we can do is continue to sound the alarm and understand the truth will set you free. The truth is more powerful than their lies. The question is, how long is it going to take for them to actually see the light?
Well, something, Don, these folks is, what's good for the team. That's their whole idea about everything in life. I'm wondering, is this part of a deal to going ahead and, New York's going to fail? The problem is some of those people are going to be filtering into other states and still voting the same stupid way over and over again. Is this part of a master plan?
I believe there's clearly a master plan to bring down the American constitutional republic. Clearly, what they want to do is replace it with one world order globalism, and they'll use any means they can do it, whether it's Sharia or anything else. So clearly, it's part of a master plan. Our people just have to wake up and fight it and defeat it. We are at war already. There's a philosophical war out there that's about to, really bubble over. And we have to understand, wake up and understand that our enemy is within. It used to be our enemy spoke German or Japanese or even Russian or Arabic, but now they're speaking English. We're dealing with English-speaking communists. We got to come to that realization.
Absolutely. And more, this is the reason we need to vote in every election, because some of these folks are going to be filtering into other cities, even small towns. They're going to be running for mayor. They'll be running for city council. And those positions are extremely important.
Those are the positions that immediately cause us to feel impact more quickly than anything else. The city of Charlotte yesterday pushed through big blue Democratic city a 26-cent transit tax, I believe it was. In other words, they don't want. First off, they got this mass transit here with this train where this poor girl was killed. They got these buses, but they don't want the riders to have to fork out $1 or $5, whatever, to pay for the ride. They want it subsidized by taxpayers. And we're seeing this sort of thing everywhere. And yes, they are attempting to infiltrate in, and they are using these big blue cities as the hub for their infiltration. Then they'll move out and try to affect. Look at what's happened, for example, in Virginia. Virginia used to be solidly Republican, okay, but the Democrats have hired 3 million bureaucrats to work in the federal government, and these bureaucrats spill over into Arlington County and Fairfax County, the city of Alexandria, Loudoun County, Prince William County, all these counties up there. They filter into those counties, and then because they want to protect their subsidies, Virginia slipped the blue. And so, we had a great gubernatorial candidate, Winsome Sears, get defeated, and ironically, the NAACP supported the white candidate over the black candidate. Which is Russian. You call it the NAALCP, the National Association of Liberal Colored People. So see, philosophy is what it's about. So you would think that NAACP would support a African American woman who had been lieutenant governor for that race, but no, they support the socialist instead. So the fear is well founded. We have a lot of good, solid, conservative New Yorkers in North Carolina who moved out for the right reasons. These Manhattanites and others who are going to be leaving when they can't afford to live there anymore. Hopefully, they'll remember what drove them out and vote against. Have a chance to vote against when they come here.
Well, something, I'm no fortune teller, but I have an ounce of common horse sense in my head. So let's talk to the people who are on the freebies, who voted for this clown, Mayor of New York, okay? So let's talk to those folks for just a few minutes. And let me tell you what I know just from history. That's why it's so important we know history. Okay, the first people who are going to suffer are going to be the people who are taking the freebies. They're going to wind out on the streets with nothing, because when it comes right to it, that there's no middle class there. It's only your higher ups and your lower downs. So any middle class is moving out. They're gone. They're going to get somewhere where they can actually make a living and live and support their families. So you're going to be left with the higher ups, lower downs. That's just, and I hate to put it that way, but that's the way it is. So these folks they're going to be on the streets. Because you've got to pay for something. Well, guess what? The money is going to go to the rich, not to the poor. I mean, that's the way. That's how you break down a country. That's how you break down a city.
Right. The whole purpose of socialism is to destroy the middle class, so that you have a small handful of oligarchs. And Bernie Sanders talking about oligarchs and millionaires and billionaires. Look how rich that hypocrite becomes in the Senate. Or look at the rest of them. They just become rich, and then they talk about oligarchs as if they're not talking about themselves. That's exactly what's going to happen. You will have a small handful of ultra-rich and a vast sea of poverty. And the recipients of these welfare benefits are going to be part of the sea of poverty with no way of getting out, which is exactly what the tyrants want. more for thee, more for me, and not for thee. And so you get who you vote for, and anybody in New York City listening to me, you watch, you wait, you see, you're going to see that you just brought a disaster upon yourself.
Oh, yeah. And my prediction is this, too. Again, I'm no soothsayer. I'm just using common sense here. Okay, so what are they going to do with these folks? There are bunkers, underground bunkers all over New York. They're going to wind up living there with nothing, with the rats and with the roaches. That's the way it's going to be.
Well, if they come to that and they put them into subways, who knows? People will be living like rats because there's no place to put them. And they're going to be trying to get money from the federal government. Trump's going to cut them off, and he should cut them off, and rightly so.
Not going to get it. Absolutely. So let's talk about, again, the rest of the country, because this really, I mean, I'm upset about this election. So this really filters on down to all the other 49 states. Okay. And beyond that, the world as well, because people can be moving out. So will there even be any small businesses left in New York? What's your prediction?
No, I think the goal, of course, is to destroy small business all across the board. Small businesses will not be able to operate in the type of environment that the Democrats.
You need to vote for Don because of what he believes in. Let's cut into a commercial break. We're going to be right back in just a few minutes. We're back. Thank you. So just had a commercial break. So Don, thank you again so much for being with me on the show, bringing so much information. Now let's talk North Carolina. Okay. And let's beg the socialists don't move into North Carolina and surround that.
Right. Republicans welcome. Democrats stay away. Stay north of the Mason-Dixon line and stay with what you voted for. Anyway, that's my message.
There you go. Okay, so let's talk how can other states prevent this from happening? Does it begin on the local level with your mayor and your city council?
Well, you mentioned mayor and city council, and of course in North Carolina, we have odd elections. So Charlotte and Raleigh, the two largest cities, had elections this week, and Republicans don't turn out. The Democrats, walked away with winning those two cities. In the city of Charlotte, if we had 30% of registered Republicans, I was talking to the county sheriff just last night. If we in Mecklenburg County, if we had 30% of registered Republicans come out and vote, Republicans would have dominated the city of Charlotte. And part of the problem that you get here is that, you see, the Democrats are happy to have elections every year. Republicans are God, country, and family. And but the Democrats, to them, this is their God. So they're going to come out and be more motivated. I think one thing we need to do is get off your elections because we just had a presidential election last year. Now, all of a sudden, you have Republican poll workers that are being asked to come out again. And it means more to the Democrats than it does to us, that is government. But the problem is, at the local level, that's where regulations, zoning, local city and state, city taxes, particular county taxes, are imposed and done so almost immediately. And, Charlotte's going to drive a bunch of people out because the takers there voted for this transit tax, which brought a bunch of Democrats out to the polls. They wanted to tax people who are working so they don't have to pay for light rail. So, we just have to educate more. We've got to do a better job of getting Republicans out in the off-year elections, which we've not done a really good job of. I think the RNC's been an abject failure as far as working with local, county Republican parties and state, to get our voters out. So it's an issue. In North Carolina, we did well in the number of races. In New Bern, there was a socialist running against the longstanding mayor down there, and unfortunately the Republicans won that. But I wouldn't read too much also into these results from a national standpoint, because the victories primarily in the major races yesterday were in blue states anyway. New York, Virginia, New Jersey, those are blue states. But we just got to get our people more focused. And I hope the North Carolina General Assembly will move to do away with off-year elections so that, here's the deal. presidential election in 24. Then you have city and county and municipal elections in 25. Now coming up in 26, we've got off-year senatorial elections that I'll be involved with. That's an election every year. And so I think we need to take these even year, odd year elections and consolidate them with even year elections. If we had municipal races last year when Trump was on the ballot, Republicans would have done a lot better because you have a strong top of the ticket. So that's one of the things I hope the General Assembly will take a look at.
You know, a lot of the emails I receive, people talk about the crime rate, and it's getting into small towns. You know, I've harped about this, about the town of Albertville, Alabama. It used to be a Mayberry.
Right.
Just in recent years, with this mayor, and it acted like he didn't know how the illegals came in. He had no clue they were coming in, but now they're renting some of his houses. So, I mean, you know, and he's piling them in there. And yeah, I hope he listens to this. I hope he's learning a lesson. Because with all the Haitians and all the illegals who are in there, they can elect their own mayor. What does that do to a town?
You know, a lot of times these small town politicians will become intrigued by getting, federal monies in for these projects. And, the money's pouring into the town. They think short term. They get contractors coming to build these low-end housing. Look what it does to your community in the long run. Number one, you guarantee it's going to be Democrat because you put takers into these government houses, and then you can buy their votes. Democrats will try to buy their votes, but then it also brings in the riffraff and brings in a criminal element. I mean, you were talking about Albertville, Alabama. Well, what's happening is the stuff is flowing in from the larger cities. They come in and infiltrate the cities, and it flows out to the towns. Mm-hmm. And our local politicians got to be stronger. The mayor should have known better. You can't. The developer wants to come in and build Section 8. You can't zone for Section 8. You should not be zoning for it for the most part because you're changing the nature of your community. And it's not the federal government's role to be doing that sort of thing anyway. So it is spilling over in our small towns. I can tell you one bit of good news that I'll share with you, Donna. I've been in at least 65 counties in North Carolina, some more than once. And I've talked probably to a dozen sheriffs around the state. And every one of them that I've talked to tell me the good news is the fentanyl problem has dipped significantly. It's been lowered significantly since Trump sealed the borders. So at the national level, that's helping. But you still have organized crime in these big blue cities. And they're finding their way out into the small towns. And we just, it goes back to something I was saying on an earlier segment. You can't be sending psychologists and babysitters out with police officers. You need to hire police officers, not psychologists and babysitters, and go out and enforce. I may have mentioned to you that after this poor girl, Arena, was murdered in Charlotte on the light rail, that was in the national news, all over the news, just before Charlie Kirk's murder. I immediately called for President Trump to send a National Guard in to stabilize the light rail and to support our Charlotte Police Department. The president has not done that yet. But I called on the president immediately to do that. 2 weeks later, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Fraternal Order of Police joined in that call, followed me, and said, hey, that's a good idea. We're also calling for the National Guard to come in to stabilize the crime situation in Charlotte. That's the Charlotte Police Department, their police union. And I was talking to the head of the chapter, the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 9 for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police and all the law enforcement here in the area, in the Charlotte area. And he was telling me that Charlotte has fewer police officers now than Charlotte had in 2018. But it has a population of 60,000 more. In other words, 60,000 more people live in the city. But you got fewer police officers. And part of that's because of idiotic Democrat policies that just they don't want to spend money on law enforcement. They want to spend money on a bunch of dumb, cultural crap stuff. I shouldn't say that, all over the place. They want to spend money on social workers, but they don't want to, and all of that is just a boondoggle rather than protecting the people. And that sort of thing needs to be exposed, and we got to be more determined to support and back the blue, and because that's the only thing that's going to deter crime is that more officers on the street and getting tough with criminals.
No, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you a question. This is about the Census Bureau that's take a census every 10 years. Should it be A little sooner than that, maybe 5 years, based on the number of people who are filterating towns.
Well,
Because this doesn't make sense. Okay, so the small town I was living in Alabama. Okay, so I had the mayor to admit this. Okay, so you had a census of 900 and something people. However, there were 1,200 students in the school. Okay, how can you have 900 people in a town? Census says 900 people, but then you have 1,200 students. Don't all of those students have at least one parent and at least one sibling? That would mean we've got over 3,000 people instead of 900, like the most recent census stated.
well, you're pointing out a problem, an antiquated problem with the census system. Constitution contemplates the census every 10 years, but there's nothing to prohibit it. It is constitutionally basically mandated every 10 years, but there's nothing to prohibit a census to occur midterm or every 5 years or every 2 years. And you've identified a problem that we're seeing. You have some towns, that have become ghost towns because of NAFTA, and you're looking at a census from 8-9 years ago that isn't accurate, and in some that become boom towns because for whatever reason, and so you're not getting an accurate reflection. And the other thing about the census is, recall, the big battle over the census now is that Democrats want to count illegals in the census, and they want to count illegals because they want to help them in terms of the way they draw the congressional lines. And so we've got to, we need a ruling from the Supreme Court on this. But I can tell you that illegals under the 14th Amendment, which is where the citizenship clause is found in the Constitution, citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment was designed to give citizenship only to the children of former slaves, and not the children of illegals in the nation. And matter of fact, at the time the citizenship clause was passed, citizenship was prohibited for the children of American Indians who were living inside of geographic boundaries of the country, but were living on tribal lands, which are technically their own nation. So that's a big deal with the census as well. We have to make it clear that illegals cannot be counted in the census. And what you're seeing now, like the state of North Carolina has just redrawn its lines for congressional districts, but so is California. But that is in part because there is such a quick and rapid flux on where people are moving and where they're leaving. So yes, I think you ought to have more flexibility and be able to have an accurate count. You cannot do that once a decade.
That's impossible. And I'm gonna stress this point because it's so important. Who you elect on the local level,
Right.
your mayor and your city council members, because this is what has happened, and I know it because I've seen it unfold. Okay, I've watched this wonderful, wonderful town being crushed. Now, during the guy's campaign, he did mention that they have more retail stores. Okay, but you also have more theft. Okay, I know retail stores, the moms and pops are just giving it up. It's just like, I'm done with this because they're getting no police protection. None. ICE has been to this small Mayberry town. They were there just a few months ago and arrested a whole bunch of illegals at a restaurant. I mean, and then Phil and I, we go to Alabama once a month because we have sponsors who are still with us in Alabama, and they're staying with us with the show. And so I make it a point to go there every third Monday of the month. And we spend all day there. We do, videos and what have you. But we stayed at a hotel in Albertville. Never do it again.
Right.
Never. Because it was like this one big, huge party. And it's a small motel, okay? But it used to be a nice one. I mean, nice, peaceful. Traveling through, you would send your relatives there who are coming in from out of state for the holidays. No more do we do that.
Well, I won't say which hotels or which towns they were in because I don't want to embarrass the towns, but I've been in certain hotels during this campaign. You go in and there's a smell of formaldehyde, it sounds like, on the floor. It's can barely breathe, and you have unsavory characters hanging out. And sometimes you got to do that because you're out in the middle of away from the Hampton Inn. I mean, you stay where you can find sometimes. And I'll usually I usually take a gun with me when I go into places like that, just to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And God bless the Second Amendment, but I'll usually do that. And because there have been situations when you're having drug dealing right outside the door and that sort of thing, and you just got to watch it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's happening, but they had to call the police twice. The person at the front desk was afraid and she wouldn't do anything about it. So we had to call them twice. And I just told them, we'll never stay here again, ever. Never. Right. If we don't, and this I'm seeing a switcheroo of towns, because the town Gadsden and Atala, Alabama used to be known as thug towns in Alabama. They used to be. They're much safer now than the smaller towns are. How is that happening?
Yeah. Right.
It's just incredible.
They're getting the attention, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the educational system, because I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and like you said, there are some wonderful teachers. But it's the platform they're given.
Well, I would say the educational system has suffered irreparably almost since the federal government decided that it wanted to get involved, even before the Department of Education was created in 1981 in 1980 under Carter, ran down our throats before Reagan came in. The federal government, through the ESEA Title I, II, and III, were already trying to force top-down curriculum. And so what we've had is a twofold failure in education from a philosophical standpoint. One, they took prayer out of the schools. They took, the Supreme Court did, took Jesus out of the schools, took the Ten Commandments out. And so there was a deliberate effort to de-emphasize morality within the public system. They took teaching American exceptionalism out of the schools. Are we our patriot forefathers, the men who World War I and World War II? You teach morality in the school system. That's the first problem. The second problem, in some way, what I mean by academic slippage is, our test scores, our reading scores, all that is faltering vis-a-vis our economic competitors, particularly in Asia. And so you've got to address both of those problems at the same time. You got to put the Bible back in the school. You got to put prayer back in the school. You have to embrace our Judeo-Christian heritage. That's what we have. You've got to embrace it and not run from it. That's the first thing. And then you got to get back to reading, writing, arithmetic, and get the top-down efforts to basically indoctrinate kids out of the school. You got to teach American exceptionalism too. We got to teach this as a good country. Listen, if the New York City schools have been teaching American exceptionalism for the last 50 years, and if the Bible had stayed in those classrooms, you would never have a situation where a fool like Modami, a communist Muslim, could even come close to ever being on the ticket, let alone arrested. And so I've said that his election is a systemic problem, of the systemic failure of the education system by removing teaching exceptionalism, teaching morality. When you take exceptionalism and morality out of the schools, Mandami is what you get, and totalitarianism is what you get. So we've got to attack all that. And I think I'm calling on the Congress to do your job and eliminate the Department of Education. They haven't done it yet. Trump has been going after the Department of Education with executive orders, but only Congress can eliminate it. We got a Republican Congress. Why isn't it gone? I'll raise the question. I will go after it when I'm in the Senate with a vengeance, but I hope that it's gone before I get there.
Absolutely. Something with history being taught. I was a kid of the 60s and the 70s, and they taught history back then, and your teachers really got into it. And I remember hearing about Tojo and Hitler and all of those thugs, thinking, I was a patriot then, because I heard those stories and they were the truth. And it was all about, do we want to live in a world like that? Anne Frank, we read the Anne Frank diary, all of those things that we were taught in school. And I just don't want to go there. Let's go into a commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
We are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Age television talk show where truth matters. That's why we always have Donna on the show with us. Donna, we have some new sponsors, My Patriot Supply, and the good food there, right there. If you are thinking about an inheritance for your kids and you live in New York, you need to go to my website because you can put away food that will last 30 years with this program. So go to donnasedge.com, donnasedge.com, and click on the link that shows My Patriot Supply, and go ahead and get that order in. They've got some great specials going on right now as well. Also, Honey Baked Ham. Everybody knows Honey Baked Ham. Christmas and Thanksgiving coming up. Go ahead and get that on order. And Eggs Up Grill. I don't know if you guys have an Eggs Up Grill in North Carolina, but look, I'm giving away these cards right here. $25 every Friday. So go ahead and check that out. And they actually serve breakfast and lunch. So you can have if you're a breakfast person, you can have breakfast for lunch as well. And they serve burgers and fries and all that stuff too. But again, thank you to all of our new sponsors. We definitely appreciate it. And we appreciate all of our sponsors who are staying with us. Definitely. Thank you so much. Don Brown is with us right now, a candidate for U.S. Senate. And I know it sounds like, Donna's down on, I'm not down on anything. I want the country better. We've got to start thinking with our own minds. Okay, don't be fed, but don't even be fed by me. Go ahead and do your own research. Don, how do you suggest? And by the way, thank you for your service always. How can folks get the right news?
Well, I'll go to several different news sites. Of course, I'll go to your show, Donna. I'll go to Citizens Free Press, go to Revolver News. Sometimes I'll go to ProTrumpNews.com. The first thing to do is understand that we should check and double check sources. I would do that. But one of the most alarming things that I go to sometimes is a website called usdebtclock.org. And I would encourage everybody to go to usdebtclock.org. It shows the exploding national debt right in front of our eyes. And we have brought the rate of spending down the Republican from about $55,000 a second to about $37,000. I didn't say that right. The debt is exploding right now at about $37,000 a second. It was exploding at about $55,000 a second under the Democrats, 55 to 60. But debt is still exploding. And if we don't get control of the debt, we're going to lose everything. And folks need to understand that. And you Democrats have created the problem, but our Republicans have not stopped it. I'm going to go to the Senate and try to fight it and stop it. So if there's one alarm that I'm sounding all over the state, is that the national debt is something that we've got to take seriously, or it's going to take us down.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Another one thing I wanted to make mention of, Don is not driving in his car. Okay, he's not driving as he's talking to me, okay? Before anybody
I am not driving. Hang on. All right, you can see my hands. Not driving.
He's not driving.
I have a bodyguard and a driver taking care of me today, so that's good.
There you go. Can't get each other.
Actually, I did have to move it. I am in the back seat. I had to move into the back seat because the sun was so bright coming through the front. It was blinding me out, which might be a good thing. But so I got into the back seat of our new Ford Explorer. Never sat back here before, and it's rather comfortable. And got a little bit better lighting because at least the hood blocked some of the sun out. So I am not driving, that's for sure.
I'm not going to let you go until we talk about fair tax. So now I'm talking about the folks who are going to be deporting themselves and coming into other states. Okay, so what is going to make, let's say North Carolina, what would make North Carolina be the state that all of the new businesses would want to form and be successful, a good place to live? Would fair tax do that?
Fair tax is the best, quickest solution to the elimination of the Internal Revenue Service and the disastrous income tax system that we have. It's something that's going to have to be put in at the national level to replace the Federal Income Tax Act that was initially passed in 1913. But yes, it will work because you will no longer be punished. Americans will no longer be punished by what we make. You can make it all. The tax would be a minimal tax only on the purchase of new goods and services the first time. So if I go to Walmart and say buy a piece of furniture, maybe some patio furniture, I'll pay a tax on that the first time. But if I go and later on decide I need to replace it, and I see a piece of patio furniture at a flea market, you don't pay a tax on that. So it will certainly boost the secondary markets as well. It will boost, certainly free enterprise and opportunities for people to get out and make a living for themselves. And it is being used in several countries around the world already, including Saudi Arabia. And so I am hoping that the North Carolina General Assembly will end state income tax altogether, and the Congress will implement a fair tax to replace the disastrous and oppressive tax that's in place right now.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to mention that I've been talking with a financial advisor, a young guy. He's probably in his 40s. To me, that's young. And so he has been talking about the tariffs that President Trump has put out there. And he said, he's told me he did not know at the time I was a conservative until he saw some of my shows. And so he said, because I'm new here to the area, And he said, what Trump has done, he said, don't listen to the news on what the tariffs, they're saying about the tariffs. He said he is seeing all kinds of great things happening because of the tariffs that Trump has put in place. And I asked him what he thought about fair tax, and he said, we need to do it. He knew all about it.
Right, yeah. It's interesting. Let me give an example of one of the effective results of the president's tariffs. Caroline Levitt announced over the summer that another $350 billion in revenue had come in since the president began to select. And it's a selective use of tariffs, not across the board. It really depends on what another country's doing. We've all believed in free trade, but you can't have free trade if it's not fair trade. China, last year before Trump came into office, was putting a 24% tariff on American cars going into that country. So I'm riding in a Ford Explorer. If you were going to buy it in China, you'd have to pay an extra 24% tariff there because that the Chinese were imposing that tariff on American cars and automobiles and as a result of the tariffs, however, the selective use of tariffs, the Chinese have now suspended that 24% tariff, and there is zero tariff on American cars being now sold to China. So that's an example of how these tariffs being strategically used can be a great benefit to American producers and manufacturers. And he's trying to use the tariffs to basically equalize the playing field. So, we shouldn't have to be paying, the French are, they're charging tariffs on American wine going into France, but we expect not to hit them back when their products come here. It really is a matter of fair trade more than anything else to balance things out. At the end of the day, the tariffs can do two things. One, put a lot of money in the U.S. Treasury, which is a good thing if you're going to use it to apply against the debt. It's not a good thing if you're going to throw it into the welfare state. But the second thing is it protects American manufacturers and American jobs. I am, have been arguing for protection for our North Carolina shrimpers. We have a large shrimping industry in the eastern part of the state, and some folks tried to shut it down recently. I'm standing with the shrimpers. We have to be able to produce food in the United States here because food security is national security. But a month or so ago, news came that several tons of shrimp from Indonesia was brought into the United States and is radioactive. And so it makes zero sense. And I think we ought to basically ban importation of foreign shrimp and a bunch of foods as well in order to encourage American jobs and American farming and American manufacturing. So, they predicted, in fact, the guy that I'm going to be replacing will say about tariffs, whose neck am I going to choke if this doesn't work? Well, Senator Tillis, here we are. We're close to 300 days now to the Trump administration. Going on 300 days. We haven't seen the president see positive results, as your friend pointed out, Donna.
Absolutely. I have a heart for our retired veterans. It feels like they're getting the axe all the way around. Monies that went to illegals, in my opinion, should have went to our retired veterans. What are your thoughts about that? Any programs that can be put in place?
Well, let me put it this way. My thoughts are this. That the lowest private in the Army, the lowest seaman in the Navy, and the lowest airman in the United States Air Force is more important to this country than the highest ranking member of Congress. It is our active duty soldiers and our veterans who have been willing to put our lives on the line for our country. Not the politicians. Now, some politicians are veterans, but the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, the Chuck Schumers, they sapped at the system. It is not right for members of Congress to have a better health care system than veterans of the United States Armed Forces. In fact, veterans should have a better health care system than members of Congress. I think every veteran who serves this country should be able to have a card and walk into any doctor's office anywhere and get whatever medical care is needed, because that is part of the sacrifice that's been made for this country, especially now in an era of a half a century without the draft. Most of our veterans now get or volunteering to go and not being drafted. So we got to do better by our veterans. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that illegals, okay, and members of the Congress are being treated better than our veterans. It is a national scourge and a national disgrace, and I'm going to fight to change it from the floor of the United States Senate.
You better believe it's a national embarrassment is what it is. I'm ashamed of that. Absolutely. Don, we're going to have to call it a day. Hope you have safe travels out there on the road, and looking forward to talking to you next time. How can folks find out more information to contribute to your campaign and maybe even volunteer?
Thank you, Donna. We'll take that. Go to Brown Attorneys, Brown for NC. I have several websites. brownfornc.com. That's Brown, FORBROWN, brownfornc.com. Click on us. You can contribute there. We'll take anything we can get. A maximum of $3,500 per person, down to $5. We need everything we can get. We appreciate support. Drop me a line there, and I'll get back to you. And really appreciate the opportunity to interact with voters and fellow North Carolinians.
Yeah, absolutely. If I were living in North Carolina, I'd vote for you. Phil would too. Absolutely.
Right,
guys, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's so good to be with you today. Continue sending email. I love them. Donna@donnasedge.com. Donna@donnasedge.com. The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you.